Hello and welcome to this week's video. My name is Anuska Taylor. So great to have you here. And just as a quick reminder, if you haven't yet subscribed, please do click that subscribe button. I create weekly videos on all things voice related for professionals, for anyone that really wants to make a greater impact when they speak. And also don't forget, if you enjoy my videos, please do give me a thumbs up and also leave me a comment because I love hearing from you. So today I'm talking about something that I see across the board in my coaching, and I want to talk a little bit more about this idea of why people struggle to be expressive when they speak. And by expression, I mean having variety in the voice, variety in volume, in pitch and dynamics, in all things that really make the voice more engaging and more interesting. And one of the big reasons why people seek me out and why they work with me privately is they say that they fear that their voice is very dry, boring, monotone, lacking in energy, lacking in melody. It just sounds like bleh. And of course, that's not very engaging, particularly I think nowadays, because we don't even necessarily watch videos. We listen to videos, we listen to podcasts. We are often with our cameras off on Zoom. So even if there is the video potential, often we are just listening to voices. So our voice becomes absolutely essential if we want people to engage with our content. So why then do people find it so challenging to be expressive? Now, I work with people across all different industries, male and female, and I've seen this across the board. I think in some industries where perhaps it's more conservative, it might be more challenging, but I see this across the board, whether it's a more creative industry or whether it's a more kind of conservative industry, let's say. And what is this? So for me, when we really kind of peel back the layers and we start exploring this on a deeper level, the fear is about being perceived as a performer. And it's so fascinating to me because I am what you might stereotypically think of as a performer, as a singer. And so I think a lot of the time, and actually I include myself in this until I started to explore this more deeply in myself. But when we think about a performer, what often comes to mind is people like singers, musicians, actors, dancers, comedians, fill in the blank, people in those creative roles where they're standing on a stage. And often I think we call them a performer because in some way they are playing a role or playing a character. And I think for a lot of speakers, they're like, no, I don't want to be a performer. I don't want to be perceived as a performer because I think there is some fear there of being perceived as inauthentic. Because when you're an actor, you're standing on stage and you're playing a character, you're playing a role. And sometimes as a singer, you're also playing a role or whatever, fill in the blank. Not always the case. In my case, I write and sing my own music, so I am being myself. But obviously, if you're singing musical theatre, there is an element of acting, playing a character in that as well. So what's this got to do then with the speaking voice? And why does it matter? If we reject this idea of being a performer, and I'm a speaker, I don't want to be a performer. I don't want to stand on a stage and perform, quote unquote, like a dancing monkey. I want to just speak. I just want to be authentic. The interesting thing with the mind is whatever we associate with this idea of being a performer, we will then reject. Now, often when we think about actors, singers, not so much dancers because they don't use their voice, but let's talk about people that use their voice that we would put under the performing umbrella. They generally have a lot of variety in their voice. They have access to variety of pitch, of dynamics, pace, energy. There is so much variety and interest in their voice. And that's what makes them so captivating because they can play different characters, play different roles, utilize different accents if they need to. But what we're really rejecting then as a speaker is variety. Now, we don't consciously realize this. And then we come to try and be expressive. And even just slightly varying our pitch is suddenly like, whoa, that is so high, or that is so low, or whatever we've been doing. We then start to add some variety. We start to add variety to our volume, for example. Maybe we always speak quietly. I hear this all the time from people, because when we actually start to connect to the true voice and we actually allow the voice to come out the way nature intended, there is a natural power in the voice. And we're not used to it because we're so used to pulling the voice back. Again, we don't know we're doing this. We don't realize we're doing this necessarily, but we're so used to pulling the voice back. And what I find really interesting is even amongst the singing community, even amongst my peers, my voice coach peers, my singing teacher peers, we've had this conversation before. It's like we do something different when we sing than when we speak. And it's like, okay, I've got this big expressive voice when I sing, and then I've got to pull my voice back when I speak. So we actually almost go into perhaps an unhelpful vocal technique when we speak, and then we do something completely different when we sing. And I include myself in this as well. Before I started doing this deeper inner work on really understanding what the voice was actually conveying, I was the same. I was listening back to a concert I did about, I think it was like 5 or 6 years ago. I've got the whole thing recorded from start to finish. And I've always stepped into this sort of role of a big voice. I've always had a big voice, a big singing voice. And then I would come to speak between songs, and then my voice would be like pulled back. And then it was like this totally different person. And people always used to say to me, they couldn't believe the voice that came out of me when I sang, because I used to pull my speaking voice back all the time. So I'm talking to you from a place of real compassion and understanding, because I have absolutely been there. I didn't know I was doing this at the time, but I was absolutely hiding. And this is what it's all about. We then are hiding. So what I want to offer you is to really start to reconsider your idea of what a performer actually is. Yes, there are performers that are playing a role, playing a character. They're not being themselves. But really, when you think about what a performer is actually doing, is they are sharing their gifts, their talents, their ideas, their creativity with the world, with the audience. That's all they're doing. Now, if you hide behind your voice, you cannot do that effectively, powerfully, and I would argue authentically. Because if your voice is sitting at the back of your throat, it's lacking in expression, it's lacking in variety, that is not your true voice. Your true voice is expressive. Just watch toddlers, watch babies, particularly toddlers, I think, once they can start speaking, the variety in their voice, you know, they do not care. And we were all that age once, and neither did we care. So I really want to encourage you. It's not about inauthenticity. Stepping into a performer is about allowing all the colors to be expressed through your voice, all the variety to be expressed through your voice. You can choose. I had this conversation with someone this week. I said, you don't have to talk loudly. Just because we are really helping the voice to kind of now be free, you don't have to be loud and have a free voice. You can be soft and have a free voice, but you're not pulling the voice back, sitting on the voice and hiding behind your voice. So really just think about a performer then as being someone that is able to access all the dynamics in their voice, all the expressive possibilities in their voice. And that is what's going to make you a far more engaging speaker than if you are pulling your voice back and hiding behind your voice. I hope that's given you something to think about, because it really holds people back and they make it so wrong to be perceived as a performer. But it really is your gift. And the ego is very black and white. It's like, I don't want to be a performer, so I push everything away that could vaguely be construed as being a performer. But with that, we push away all that creativity, all that expression, all those dynamic potentials in our voice. And ultimately, this is about you choosing how you use your voice versus your vocal habits, which are conditioned either by, past generations or within your upbringing. about how you use your voice. This is not who you really are. So your true voice is expressive. And I really, really encourage you just to start to firstly open your mind to the meaning of a performer, but also start to record yourself, because this is another thing. People are like, oh, but it's really loud. And I'm like, it's actually not that loud. Record yourself and listen back. It's just because you're so used to pulling your voice back and mumbling and not really allowing the voice out, that suddenly when the voice comes out, you're like, whoa, this is loud, and it's really not. So I'd like to leave you with that today. I invite you to open this up for yourself, really start to examine this in your own voice. And do you have judgments or fears around being perceived as a performer? And really start to peel back the layers. What is this really about? And actually, can I have a new understanding of what it means to be a performer that serves me in my speaking? So if you are ready to explore this in a much deeper way in your own voice, I would love to help you, and you can schedule a 30-minute voice discovery call. The links are below. And in that call, we can really start to peel back the layers, really understand what's going on in your voice and how we can start to move forward. And it's such a transformational process. You know, you go in for voice coaching, but actually you really, ultimately, this is about a real awakening about who you really are and your full potential. And so you'll find that actually it affects every area of your life, not just your voice, because you show up more fully, more authentically, and you're really coming home to yourself, which is the purpose of all of this. So thank you so much. If you enjoyed today's video, please give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment. Always love to hear from you. If not, I will see you on next week's video. Thank you so much.